All right, we've had to transition to the basement for part two of this exercise because it's nap time upstairs. So enjoy it while it lasts, I guess. But I have to work through the whole thing. So, anyways, here's the random transcriptions I've grabbed for the British English tokens. Yeah, so I'll say a few things about this as we go, but I think the primary thing I should say, excuse me, is that these random transcribers did a great job. So this is my key, so-called, for this exercise, and this is what I got at random from everybody. And basically, every single one of these is right on target, with a minor distinction for number one, which is the word bared, as it would be said in my variety of English. But this speaker says
bed, bed,
bed. So this one is a long epsilon. This person transcribed it as a reversed epsilon, also long, and then with all these fine-grained details, which are right on target for this one, the voiceless B, the voiceless D, and a little bit of aspiration at the tail end. So what might possibly be confusing for this one is that we don't normally in American or Canadian English have long epsilons.
bed, bed,
So maybe that sounds a little bit like an a little bit different from like in bed, bed.
bed,
But if you just extend that vowel,
bed,
you should get
bed,
bed, something like that, right? So the reason this is becoming long, right, is because this is a variety of English that's non-rhotic. So this here, the R sound or phoneme just disappears in bared, and then it makes the previous vowel longer. And this particular vowel just happens to be epsilon.
bed,
And yeah, so this is a voiceless aspirated, basically T at the tail end. And this is not a voiced B at the beginning. It's just basically a P, unaspirated P. But you can transcribe it as this person did with these voiceless diacritics underneath both symbols, because we know at some underlying level these are supposed to be voiced. Yeah, and like I said, everybody got everything else right with the different vowels. Might as well play through them so we can hear the distinctions again. But and yeah, maybe it's easier because this is English. We know kind of what to expect. But regardless, transcribing English vowels is not easy, and you guys have done a good job with it.
bed,
Number two
cull,
is the wedge.
mark,
Mock is that long low back unrounded vowel.
floor,
And one distinction that's not easy is this distinction between, well, 3, 4, and 7, but got it right on target here. So this is the low back unrounded,
mark,
mid low back rounded,
floor,
and then the low back rounded.
dot,
So those are all three different vowels, right on target. So number 4, what was missed here in this candidate transcription, maybe is a typo, but there's an L here.
floor,
And if I get that cursor out of the way, you can see it pretty prominently in the spectrogram. So this is the L.
floor,
And it's clear. You can hear that as well. So it's since it's an onset position, it's clear as compared to, say, what we got for number 2, which is a darker version of that L, or a more velarized version.
cull,
Yeah. Maybe not as dark as my L's are, but you can hear it's not quite the same thing. Maybe I'll turn that up a bit. It's not that much. Versus that's clear versus dark L. You can also see in this cull.
cull,
Here's our vowel,
Oh.
and there's kind of a genuine or a gradual transition between the vowel and the L, the ol at the tail end. Yeah, so you don't get that kind of nice, like, obvious break between the L and the vowel as you get here and when it's in onset position, which is kind of interesting. But you can see this sort of like, oh, that's where we release the L and get into vowel territory.
bore,
Yeah, so that's number 4. To walk through the rest of them, number 5,
tire,
Taya. That's good. I mean, yeah, that last vowel is kind of interesting to think about.
tire,
Here we saw diphthongs with the Turkish. This is the I diphthong in this variety of English.
yeah, yeah,
And this is kind of the schwa, like vowel at the tail end.
up,
Yeah, it's a schwa. But that's what it sounds like in that context. Number 6.
Bode.
Is so normally when you think of like RP English, you expect to have like an O. You expect to have another schwa at the beginning of that particular diphthong, the O diphthong, in a word like bode, bode, something like that. I found out when I was teaching this varieties of English class this past semester that up until about 1900, apparently it was fairly common throughout British English for the diphthong there to have the O, the rounded vowel at the beginning, and then there was this sort of affectation that spread amongst the upper classes, such that the O in most varieties of British English changed into a schwa, O, something like that, which was kind of a class thing. The upper classes did it first, and then everybody kind of like followed suit because they wanted to be like them. But this speaker of English, she's actually a friend of mine. She's an academic out on the East Coast somewhere, and she's from she speaks a northern variety of RP English, basically, where they do not do that, or at least she does not do that.
Bode.
Ode, bode.
Bode.
Yeah, so that's the O as opposed to the schwa.
Bode.
And I can actually kind of compare the two here. The schwa at the tail end of taya, and the O at the beginning of bode. That's schwa, and that's O. Yep, so, and then number 7.
Dot.
And number 8, we actually do get that long reversed epsilon.
Hurt. Hurt.
So that's as opposed to something more like That vowel, is, we can go back to number 1 and compare the two of these vowels. Here's the long and this is the long yeah. And this one, reversed epsilon, so we're talking about a vowel that's mid-low, unrounded, and basically central, so it should be somewhere between like an and an but also it's going to be in that position pretty close to a schwa. So, right, these are all easily confusable, right? I think this is
Taya.
Taya. We can kind of compare it to this tail end of Taya. That vowel versus not quite the same, right? But pretty close. Yeah, and then you can also kind of get a sense of why often when we transcribe what I've told you to transcribe in this class is like a syllabic it sounds like this vowel that's just rhoticized. Curl your tongue on top of this vowel. And you'll get hurt as opposed to hurt. Yeah, and then number 9.
Gull.
Gull, which is the same vowel as in 2.
Cull.
That vowel. Yeah, everybody did a great job here. There's a few of these where you might have missed it, like say a certain stop is voiceless, but it's not that big of a deal. A lot of people picked up on the sort of like aspiration here, which is great because we're just focusing on vowels. I'm not going to worry about that stuff for this exercise. And I will talk about that though right up here in a minute when I go through the Bengali exercises, which is all about VOT and aspiration. So I will see you all there in a second.